You
I think
think
so.
you think the first word should have been admitting that you long for the sweet release of death?
Yes, actually, that is just how January feels to me.
That's valid. Hello, welcome to the Yaoi
Hi,
Shelf.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
Question
Year.
mark.
American noises.
I'm gonna say what I said when I popped into the server for 10 seconds and disappeared again for a week.
Yes.
I want everyone to have a not terrible New Year. I hope that we all have like a satisfactory New Year. That's what I'm going for here. I just want to survive. I was just telling Amanda the news from my part of the world where we are currently
Too
living
much
through
snow?
some very heavy snowfalls. Like we've been getting at least 1 to 2 meters of snow per night for 3 nights. Everything is completely snowed in. People are skiing to work. This is the most Norwegian thing I have ever seen in my entire life. So that's fun. And otherwise, I have discovered that I have this habit of like starting the new year with, I don't like new beginnings. I don't like it when my lists go back to, my Goodreads list is like, oh, I have to start from the beginning. But
Yes.
I have discovered that for some reason in January, I tend to start the year with some depressing nonfiction.
Yes.
So the first book I started reading, and I'm currently halfway through in 2025, is about the collapse of the American democracy. Which feels fitting considering the things you told me pre-record. And it's so uplifting. Like, it's just like, Happy New Year.
Today we're going to talk about BL economics
Yes.
and the BL economy. This was a topic that was suggested. We have batted it around for literally months. I think like at the end of every episode we said like we just need to do this.
Yeah.
Um so I'm super excited to talk about BL economics and the BL economy because I think one major thing that a lot of normies essentially don't understand is that one, especially like shonen fandom, it is not run by men.
No.
Shonen fandom has never and is not fiscally, spiritually, creatively run by men. It's always been very female, very queer.
Yeah.
And we're here to talk about that fiscal part, that financial part, because I think sometimes as Fujin, especially going through everything that we go through with, purity culture and these antis, we forget our power.
We have a lot of power.
We have so much fucking power.
I feel like I don't forget it because I never engage with these people on the internet. I don't engage with anyone on the internet. I want to be alone. But
End of sentence, Carola does not engage.
I do not engage. But I scream at my screen. I never forget. We are the ones providing you with this.
Yes.
Shut up, sit your ass down.
Yes. And I do want to include trans people as well. They have not been forgotten. I tuck them under the umbrella of queer, but I want to give a special shout out as well because that is a huge part of it as well. So when we talk about the BL economy and BL economics, there's two separate things that we're talking about. One, the economics of being a Fujin, whether that's supporting artists, supporting official translations and works, merch, and other legal means of getting things for Fujin purposes. And then there's the second part of it, which is the BL economy, which is supporting other creators, fan artists, fan writers, how we used to interact in our own economy, and still in a lot of ways do. We get to talk about that weird barter system that we had when I was in high school, because apparently that was not a unique experience. Just I was being underpaid. But the Fujin world has had like a weird barter system in place forever.
Yes.
Um, so we're going to actually switch what the outline says. And we're first going to talk about the economics of BL and Yaoi and being a Fujin. Now, something that you may have noticed with Carola and I, we sure do like queering shonen, don't we?
Listen, the shonen is queering itself. I'm just along for the ride. I'm just enjoying the food that is being prepared for me, okay?
We sure do like queering our shonen. Now, with that comes a lot of official items. Shonen is really, really interesting because it really creates a lot of opportunities to get legal merch in a way that usually Yaoi and BL wouldn't.
Yeah.
This is where I'd like to acknowledge, while some series have made that easier, that is not a unilateral thing. Yes, it is easy to get merch from Given. You go try to find Gravitation merch right now.
Yeah, and it's like, with I mean, if you go to, like if you go to Ottoman Road, and a lot of the BL merch that you find is fan made and secondhand. Like I love going to Mandarake and K-Books and getting secondhand merch. But for BL, I think that it's becoming more common to see official merch, like acrylic stands and the likes. But historically, and especially for international fans, there hasn't been, like, you get the manga and then you'd have like the occasional, like, you'd have like I remember when volume 5 of 10 Count came out in Japan, I ordered the Japanese volume because it came with these mini Nendoroids, and that was like super rare. And so
very rarely does that stuff necessarily come over. I remember when Twittering Birds Never Fly had their big like merch special anniversary thing. I bought that shit up so fast. And like when you think about Fujin being starved for content, I was so excited about keychains of Yashiro's license plate.
Right?
Like it's not even him.
Bare minimum. And it's like, I remember, I think this was in 2016. We went to Nakano Broadway when we were in Tokyo. We went to Nakano Broadway, which is like this huge like department store with like, it's like 7 floors or something with mostly secondhand shops, and they do sell a lot of things, and it's mostly like general merch. It's not like there aren't a lot of shops that are specifically geared towards Fujin like you would see in Ottoman Road, for instance. But there was this one, I can't remember what store it was. We were just like walking past it, and they have like these huge display cases in the windows with like a bunch of merch. And again, this is mostly secondhand. And I have a photo of this, but it's like I am trawling Nakano Broadway to like find cool things that I want. And in this window, there's like a bunch of like anime figures, and like there's mostly like shonen characters, like, like pretty bishoujo girls. And then there is a fucking Boku no Pico figurine. And I was like, there are no, like, we are getting, like, now we're getting, like, the Dramatical Murder figures, and, like, a lot of Nitro plus Chiral, like, the 10 Count figures. Like, we're getting more and more, like, figures of BL characters that are officially licensed. But,
correct.
But back then, even then, this was 2016, there weren't a lot of them.
No.
And then there's fucking Boku no Pico, and it was from the 3rd OVA, so it was, like, the 3 little boys on the rock. And I was like, why does this exist when there are no gravitation figures?
I would like to no longer be a part of this.
I am so upset.
I would like to check out, please.
I want to talk to the person who made the executive decision to turn this into a collectible when there are so many good BLs out there that have 0 official merch.
Yes.
And I just want to talk.
Yeah. And I think because it is in one of our blind spots, and I think at least like for me, it kind of, I don't want to say it makes me mad, but I get a little bit of jealous. This isn't including Donmei, which seems to have merch of everything. Every breathing aspect of Donmei has some kind of postcard or figurine. Hello, Sansa.
He is here.
Is
He's
his
saying
tail
hello.
supposed to do? Hi, handsome.
His tail always does that. This is how he tears down everything that he walks past. Like, he'll walk under the Christmas tree and his tail hooks onto the branches and then he just tears down ornaments as he passes by.
Is that what it's supposed to look like? But back to the economics part. So I remember being a young ravenous fujin going to anime conventions. I know.
An experience I never had.
Carola, you can come to the United States. I can show you around.
Yes, but I am not a young ravenous fujin anymore. I'm just a ravenous fujin.
I think you're just ravenous.
Access to the internet. Okay. I don't need to go to the conventions. I can just go on whatever website.
I remember being a young and ravenous fujin and, especially loving those like shonen series because they were gay to me. And buying we're going to talk about that in a later episode.
I know.
You are so... I pitched so we had a meeting. I pitched one episode idea to Carola, and I've literally never seen her happier. We've been doing this show for years.
Yeah.
I have literally never seen Carola happier than the one episode idea I pitched.
I would like the record to state that I am also dead inside, and there are very few things that entice emotions in me anymore.
Which makes it worse. But using that, especially like licensed official merch, to signify being a fan of BL. So one of like the earliest memories I have of it is, of course, Naruto. And like buying your like Naruto keychain and your Sasuke keychain, like putting them on like the same loop so they're together.
Yeah.
But I also remember it a lot with like Death Note, because I remember Death Note got a ton of contemporaneous merch. And then like, you had your light and your L, and like you never separated them. There was of course no merch of Mellow or Matte because we didn't know they existed yet.
And even when they did come into existence, it became wildly popular.
Yeah.
Why? Again, I just want to talk to someone.
It was there.
Where's my merch?
That could be another alternate episode that we do. Yeah. Like, how did these characters go from literally no one likes them and no one knows who they are to being like the top ship of the series?
Like carrying the entire franchise on their shoulder and somehow not getting any merch or anything.
Fandom completely changed what Matt looks like.
He's beautiful. He's wonderful.
But
fandom gave him agency.
Fandom gave him red hair and a personality.
I love it.
But using our dollars to continue to exist as Fujoshi, as Fudanshi, while working in a system that was not designed for us. That greasy neckbeard selling me keychains at Anime Fest, who hadn't showered the entire weekend, he couldn't possibly know the evil intentions I had with those keychains. He was just surprised to see 3D tits.
Oh, we all know, those don't they don't really exist in reality. Sounds fake.
That's like a girl at a convention? What?
I don't understand. I don't believe in women.
But it was really... It has always been Fujoshi that keep shonen going. Right, Carola?
Yeah. Yes. I want to say that I dug out some research on this. I did not. I was trying, and then
lie.
No, but I don't want to lie and refer to research I don't have. I'll try to get it by the live. I did find some things, but they weren't what I was looking for.
Okay.
But like if we look at BL history, at least I can bring it back to that. Like we've talked about this. There is a link, an unbreakable link between BL
Mhm.
and shonen,
Mhm.
and the word yaoi literally coming from the aniparo, the
Mhm.
dojins of the 80s,
The
which
Dolphins.
the dojins that particularly focused on like shonen series, like for
Yes.
instance Captain Tsubasa, which was, a sports shonen, a football anime, which to this
Soccer.
day, yeah, soccer. I'm sorry. You see, in my part of the world, I don't even care about this stupid sport
I
unless
was gonna
it's
say you're the last person to
listen,
split hairs on this.
unless you want to talk to me about Blue Lock. I don't care. But I was literally watching something recently. Yeah, because we were rewatching an episode of Jujutsu Kaisen, and there was a Captain Tsubasa reference in the omake at the end, so that
Mhm.
was kind of funny. I've never watched Captain Tsubasa, but basically, because I know there are a lot of things I haven't seen, but again,
Genuine
like
shock.
it's soccer. I don't particularly care, but apparently it's also gay. So I guess I'll have to like do some research. But yeah, like you have these. I mean, you have these well-rounded characters with agency who have strong
Mhm.
relationships and very much passion and team spirit and all of these
Mhm.
things facing adversities with their teammates, their sworn
Mhm.
brothers, and that ignites a Fujin heart.
Yes.
And yeah, and so we
And
buy the merch.
I also want to say this extends, like, we use the word BL as a generality because while we talk a lot about shonen, this extends to literally everything with a fandom.
Mm.
Think about like Dan and Phil.
I don't wanna.
I don't want to, but I was also thinking, so like one of my side hobbies is I really love wrestling.
Oh yeah, I know. I I'm aware. I that wasn't
There
even okay. Go on.
there was a period of time during wrestling with Roman Reigns where him and his crew, they were like one of the top ships on AO3
Hmm.
because they had all of that shonen storytelling because wrestling is just one piece written worse.
Yeah, but I mean,
Um,
I can understand. Like, if you're into that kind of thing, I can see the appeal.
Roman Reigns is a very large man
I
with
don't
thighs
like
that can crush melons.
exactly, and as we all know, I don't like
You like
large
planks.
men. So, so like, if you're into that thing, also, may I remind you that I grew up in the '90s, and my younger cousin was really obsessed with wrestling, but the wrestling of the '90s. So we're talking like Hulk Hogan, and
No,
I don't.
we do not sexualize Hulk Hogan in this household.
So
We
like
do
that
not.
is what I
No,
immediately
we
think
do
of,
not.
like
No,
Hulk Hogan and
that is
and his
no,
peers
no,
from
ma'am.
WeCV, like
That is
WCW
that is not what
late
we do
night
here.
television.
We do, no, ma'am. We do not. That is
Like
not
that
what
is
we do
like
here.
my two immediate thoughts when thinking about like pro wrestling is like Hulk Hogan from the '90s, and then
No.
last time I was in Japan, we lived in Otsuka, and like next to our station there was this gym, like this pro wrestling gym for women,
Yes.
and I think about that a lot.
So, um, for those unfamiliar with the Roman Reigns thing, in the 2010s, he had this group, this crew called the Shield because that's very straight and very normal. It was Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins. These are all like big, hunky guys, and they were
I haven't
like,
heard of any of these.
"I know you haven't, Corolla. This isn't for you. This is for me.
Wow! Oh my
This isn't
god!
for you. This is mine." um so they were like a group of mercenaries, like that was their like idea. They were heels, as in they were villains. um According to the internet, they have a combined weight of 707 pounds, all three of them. If you stacked all three of them like on a scale, so it's a
The
lot of beef.
scale would break.
That's a lot. That's a lot of man, and they were so close. There was so much like face grabbing and like, oh, I got to protect my, they have to protect each other. We're family, and like, yeah, family doesn't look at each other like that.
I mean, no, let's not go there.
But there's so much like merch of like the Shield and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. I don't think anyone liked Dean Ambrose. Sorry if you're listening.
What's wrong with him?
Nothing's wrong with him. He just wasn't the popular one.
Oh.
Nothing. No offense. I doubt he's listening. But there was so much merch, so much attention. There were so many spikes in viewership. Not just from diehard wrestling fans, but from Fujin, who were like, now kiss!
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we are everywhere. And I also like when you say like, and not only anime or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously, mandatory plug for Dr. Thomas, who does a lot of research on this in K-pop, but before K-pop, there was J-pop, there was Visual K, and I actually have in my possession, from one of my many hauls from Mandarake, I have a doujin written by our Lord and Savior Murakami Maki, which is, I believe it is a doujin with the members of Biz. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but Bizu, they're like an old school J-pop band. They have, among other things, they have the hit single, like they have Ultra Soul, they have It's Gonna Merry Christmas, and like there is doujin, like yaoi doujin of bands that are, and typically like before fan service became such a big thing in mainstream pop music in Japan and Korea, because Visual K has always been horny and has always had like the members grinding on each other on stage, but J-pop has had a much cleaner image, right? And even then, the Fujins were there making doujins and selling it at Comiket, like, oh, here's some Domoto Kyodai doujin for you. Like, I have some of those, not because I'm interested, but because Murakami Maki drew it, and it's like a piece of BL history. So we've always been there with with the Fujo glasses on, finding out how can I satisfy my fantasies and my urges, and also maybe make a little bit of money on this, or like break even.
Please appreciate the minute you started talking about like Visual K and J-pop, just the video for Vanilla started playing in my mind. And I was just like,
but there's like,
there's more.
I love Visual K. I mean, a lot of it, yes, I love the music. Yes, I love a lot of it, but I love a lot of it for all the wrong reasons.
And that's why we're here on the Yaoi Shelf. That's why we're your hosts.
Like, the amount of concert DVDs I have bought for bands I didn't really follow because I knew they had good fan service.
But like that's a part of it. That is BL economics, is using our money for dirty Fujin reasons. And I think that that's so interesting because, like, especially when I was coming up in the anime and manga scene, there was this like weird inverted pyramid of like the worth of a fan. And it always had like white cis men between like 14 and 20 something at the top. It always had them as like, this is, well, at the bottom really, like, this is the foundation of fandom. It's these white men who have only seen 3 series and can't talk about any of them.
Okay, first of all, I just wanna pop that bubble real quick, because absolutely, are there men who are the spines of their fandom? Absolutely. Sure. But particularly in the early 2000s, those were not necessarily white men. We have to look to the Asian fans. We have to look to the otaku, and like, absolute, like, but I think that that's such an interesting thing. And I was thinking about it as we were preparing for this episode, that I mean, there are absolutely men who are fans of shonen series. Of course, it's
Absolutely.
aimed at, young boys and men,
Absolutely.
but also I do feel like, and so there definitely are guys who are like collecting, I don't know, like
Yeah.
Bleach figures or Naruto figures, but I do think that the market is also more skewed to the male otaku, to be all, nature
Yes.
documentary David Attenborough-ish, maybe tends to collect more, fan servicey items of a different kind, like Hatsune Miku, like Bishoujo figures, like, like those kind of characters, instead of having all of these boys on display. Who's buying the figures of the men? Girl, yes, hi, it is I. And it's
pointed statue of Shishomaru just over here.
Yeah, and it's like, it's, because it appeals, I think, and I feel like in the West as well, maybe that is also tied more up to the whole, maybe even worse now, I want to say, because of the whole fellas, is it gay too? Like, can you imagine a straight dude, bro, with, buying like a shirtless shonen character statue? I mean, I'm sure they exist, but so many of them are like, I can't hold an umbrella because that will make me gay.
So I will say, I do know some folks that are like straight, and they like art references from like yaoi creators because they're just really fucking good art references.
Yeah.
Like, that's just good anatomy. Like, that's just a good body. It happens to be hella gay, but like, that's just what a person looks like. But to think about, and to clarify also, that pyramid was very much the Western vision. So, of course, Asian people didn't exist. Oh, of course, Japan, the actual country that gave us anime, wasn't real. So, there was this idea in Western fandom that pyramid's base was cis white young boys and young men. And while that was true in some spaces, we've talked about this multiple times, it was women in fujin that were driving culture. There is, while we are not bashing casuals, there is a big difference between owning every volume of One Piece and actually doing something about it.
Yeah, like we retweeted a tweet last night, my time, of this Japanese fujin who bought 100 copies of the same volume of Jujutsu Kaisen because Gojo was on the cover. That's the fujin economy.
That's the fujin economy.
That is us. Like, it's not just, oh, I am buying this one volume because I'm collecting the series. It is, I am going to buy every single copy of this particular volume that is in the store.
Well, and I even like think about my Nindo collection, which is behind me. A lot of these are bought in pairs as pairings.
Yeah, and they are sold. I mean, the friggin', I have the Shippuden Sasunaru figures. They are made to hold hands.
They are, and I love that.
They're holding hands above me right now. They're
like, that is BL economics. Is, yes, there are absolutely men that make shitty video essays and say that they understand Attack on Titan and they don't. Yes, those men. No one understands.
I feel like very few people in the Western universe understand Attack on Titan.
I don't even think the mangaka really understands what they did at this point. Just no one understands Attack on Titan.
I was just along for the ride and the trauma, to be honest. Like, I love it, but Jesus Christ, I'm glad it's over.
I wasn't along for any of it.
Oh my God.
But I think it's so important to always acknowledge that, like, the culture makers have consistently been fujin, queer people, umbrella term, and women.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that. I just remembered this the other day. Like, many, many years ago, I learned the term parasite onna, parasite woman, which apparently now the much more common phrase, like, this was the phrase I was introduced to, but the more common phrase is parasite shinguru, which refers to a person in Japan, particularly women, who are in their 20s and 30s, who live at home with their parents, which is very common for adults in Asian families to live at home until you get married. But because, especially in patriarchal societies where, values are very much founded on tradition, and so the men are out there making the money and the women are supposed to be at home raising the family. So a woman
Mhm.
who has no man and no family of her own basically has disposable income to do whatever
Mhm.
she wants with. Now, a woman who was referred to as a parasite woman, this is obviously derogatory, but it refers to a woman in her 20s or even 30s who lives at home with her parents, therefore has no obligations. She has no, she has no expenses because she's mooching off of her family. What does
Mhm.
she do with the money? She she is fueling her passions. So in the same way as fujoshi was used
Mhm.
as a derogatory term because it was a woman pursuing her passions instead of doing the right thing, finding a man and starting a family, she was, fujoing out. It's the same principle. So a lot of
Mhm.
these people who are driving this economy are the
Mhm.
parasite singles. And I think that the parasite singles and the fujin, this Venn diagram,
It's a
very
circle,
it's a
right?
circle.
Like, like the minute you started describing that, it's like that's
Right?
me.
Right?
Except I don't live at home, but like that's a circle,
Yeah, but
is
it's the
what
same.
you've
Like,
just
I have
described.
very few expenses that, a typical adult in their 30s would have. And so I have the disposable income to buy gay manga or figures instead. It is me.
I have all the bills, and I still buy my gay little figures.
uh,
And like when I think about my Nindos and everything, even though like it's not the statue and figure culture that men have of like, oh well, this series was super important to me, and I put it here because it's so badass and so cool. And don't get me wrong, the Nindos I have are important to me, but like I talk about them in a way like they're a couple. Like when I got the Kingsman ones, I was like, oh, I don't want Eggsy to be alone for too long. I need to go ahead and order the other one
yeah, I
so
know.
he's not by himself. I say that all the time. It's about France and Austria. I said about Dobby and Hawks. It's
Yeah.
like,
And
yes.
it's such a traumatic thing when they release one of them and then it's like a year before the other one comes
Yes.
out and you're like, but I have that with I have Alba and Noise, right?
Yes,
and
of course you
and
do.
Alba was released first
Mm.
naturally, and then it took so long for Noise. And also I have my Rinharu Figmas, the ones that come in the really pretty clear
Yes.
boxes and they're in the swimwear. And I bought Haru and I did not unbox him until I got it in. And I got it in so much
Right.
later because I bought him in Japan and I had to ship him home. So he was already like 1 year past the release date when I got him. And so Haru was just in his box until I could buy it in so they could stand together. Like,
So, my best friend a few years ago got me Reo and Mabu from Sarazanmai. He got me
uh,
plushies of them, and I love them so much. But he bought each one from two separate sellers.
hmm.
No one was selling them together. Everyone was selling them separate. But what ended up happening is that they ended up arriving like at the exact same time.
Oh,
And he's like, I got to keep them together for you because, I know that they're a thing. And it's like, that's a
they
friend.
don't they don't have Nendos, do they?
They do not have Nindos. These are
That is a
plush.
crime.
They deserve Nindos. So most of this,
I
I think
want.
most of Sadaz and my boys deserve Nindos.
Yeah, but
But
I really want.
we only want toy. We only want toy Rayo and
What,
Mabu.
what on earth would a Kepi Nendo look like?
Just
It's like a blob. He looks like a pile of mochi, like with
just
eyes.
a round thing.
Oh my god! Which that was another thing, by the way, because we were rewatching this particular part of Jujutsu, and I love Sukuna. We all know this. He appeared and he was terrible, and I was like, I fucking love him. But I have this issue because his voice is Kepi, right? So
Yes.
every time he opens his mouth, all I hear is Kepi, and it's it's so profoundly fucked up. I'm like, oh my god, I love it. It's beautiful.
I get that occasionally. with like Japanese voice actors. I don't have it as hard with English voice actors, especially like the ones that I really care about. They're doing this for a paycheck and it shows. Like they're all putting in work. like can you say that Johnny Young Bosch's roles all sound similar? Yes, but you can also tell that man had rent to pay and he's doing his fucking best.
I can't speak to that, but
and again, like even things like that, things like merch and autographs and supporting voice actors, that was all high key fujin activity. We supported the Bishionen men that we liked and those who voiced them. So like English dub culture and Japanese seiyuu culture are very different.
Yeah.
We would not really call voice actors celebrities here, or at least not all of them. But some of them were like cult leaders essentially because they voiced the Bishonen, and who was supporting the Bishonen? It was us.
Yeah.
So I think of voice actors like J. Michael Tatum, like Travis Willingham, who voiced these like famous Bishonen, who really gained an audience that was highly monetizable. Because of their ability to voice these often queer bait, bishi characters. So like J. Michael Tatum is the English voice actor for Sebastian and Black Butler. He also did France horribly in Italia.
Again, cannot get over my recent discovery that the Italia dub apparently was a completely different series. I did not know that until we did the special. I'm afraid.
Travis Willingham did a bunch of the Fracciones in Bleach, because that's what I've been rewatching recently. And also Roy Mustang. He had a whole fan club called the Miniskirt Army, which was full of mostly 16 and 17-year-olds, which isn't creepy at all.
I mean, it's not his fault that the fans do that, unless he made them do it, in which case that's...
No one in the Miniskirt Army was forced to do anything. But I'll say this. If I was a mother now and my 16-year-old said, I'm going to wear this miniskirt out in a meet and greet at the mall with a bunch of people I met on the internet, I'm not letting them go. I'm using one of those like cartoon theater hooks and dragging her back in. So while no one in the Miniskirt Army was forced or coerced...
Can I have my leg back? Thank you.
No. I also now have a lot of questions about a herd of minors around this 30-something-year-old man. No one has been as bad as Dirty Uncle Vic, though. And he also had his own little weird cult of personality.
Yeah, I don't want to think about his cult. No, but I also think, and in seiyuu culture, and I mean, obviously, female seiyuu are also popular and have a big following of both men and women.
Yes.
But male seiyuu, and again, the Japanese entertainment industry is very much like everyone is a tarento, right? So they're not just like, they have to do everything.
Yes.
The seiyu's also very, Mamoru Miyano, our beloved, hasn't done a lot of voice acting like he used to be in every single series. He would have like 10 series a year or whatever.
Yes.
And now he doesn't have a lot of voice roles. And I don't really know why, but I do know that he's done a lot of touring and focusing on his music career. So a lot of them, they also do music, or they do acting, or they do, some other things, because they are, they're essentially idols. But one of the things that is so beautiful, similarly in the seiyuu industry, is that you have a lot of the same voice actors who are doing shonen, are also doing the BL audio dramas. And then you get these, and I've talked about this before, like you have for instance, you have Eren and Levi seiyuu. They have done a lot of gay porn together in audio dramas. You have Cloud and Sephiroth. And so, I have this audio file to this day, have no idea which drama this originally is from, because the file that I was handed to someone on LiveJournal, by someone on LiveJournal, years ago. The file is just labeled Cloud and Sephiroth bathtub sexy time. I have no idea what manga this originally is from, because it's just a scene of them getting it on in a bathtub. And it's Cloud and Sephiroth's voice actors, but it's a completely different series. But it doesn't matter, because you can pretend.
Sidebar. What is wrong with us?
Again, we don't... Do you want a list? Because
like, hold on.
it will be very... Oh my god. No, actually, okay. So, this is very on brand, actually.
Okay.
We started watching Squid Game Season 2. We're a little late to the party. And
because of the one hot guy.
What?
The one with the gag reflex?
Yes. Okay. So we watched season 1 and we watched season 1 when it aired, and so I was like, I want to see season 2 because I want to see what happens. So we started watching, and then that scene appears with the recruiter guy when he is performing fellatio on the fucking gun, and previous to this, I was like, actually, I think recruiter guy is kind of cute. And then he did a bunch of fucked up things. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's not so cute anymore. And then he did that. And I was like, I am profoundly fucked up. What is wrong with me?
Also, can you appreciate that the minute Carola said, I've been watching Squid Game, I can hone in immediately. Oh, that dude with no gag reflex?
Right? I was like, it was as if they wrote that for me. Like this man, and like he has blood on his face and is deep throating a gun barrel. I was like, yes!
I am fucked up. That is the power of fujin, is when it's like, oh yeah, you mean that one scene?
Yeah, and case in point, like if they made merch of this dude,
you'd buy it.
I'd buy it.
You'd buy it. When they announced the pre-orders for the Nindos of Yashido and Domeki, I don't think I hit pre-order faster in my life.
Oh my god.
But that's the thing, is that it's always been this really, really solid base of queer people, of women, of fujoshi who are trying to make this transformative and are trying to find themselves in a world that still, to this day, does not think that they're a major part of fandom. I am always shocked when I go and do panels that there are people who are still convinced that after like 20-something years, I am still just there for male attention. I actually don't know anything about anime and manga. I don't like comics. I dress up for male attention because I've cosplayed as Taki Aizawa, because I'm cosplaying Taki Aizawa for male attention.
Sounds like something Taki Aizawa would say.
New cosplay for this year. I am here for male attention.
Oh my god.
That does sound like something you would say.
Like, don't get me wrong, if I do a panel, yes, I want attention. I want attention. I want you to come to my panel and hear me talk, particularly if I, God forbid, talk about my writing. Yes, give me attention, give my books some attention. But if I'm there talking about the history and the inner workings of BL, yes, I want attention so that you can learn something, so that you can understand what I'm saying.
But, that there's still this like huge preeminent idea that this is run by men, especially now as fandom has gotten older, that it's still men who are running it. I can even think of like the MCU. The MCU had this problem big because one, a lot of at the time idea was that women just didn't read comics. That's not true. So the idea one was like, oh, these movies and books and everything, those are for men. That's men. That's boys talk. And then we get pairings like Stony and Stucky and the Science Bros. Do you think all of us were there just because Josh Brolin is Thanos? No, bitch. I'm here for Steve Rogers' ass.
Take that out of context.
Or even like, oh my god, I love this with like Gladiator 2, because like we can all acknowledge Gladiator 1 was art.
Gladiator 2 is horny?
It's porn. Like we all know why we're here. Everyone in that theater, we are not here to learn. We are not here to indulge in our love of Rome. We are not here because we were failed classics majors. We are here because of Pedro Pascal.
And I mean that there's nothing wrong with that.
I wish you would tell me that.
And like that is another thing, right? Because historically we have a tendency, I say we as if I'm part of this, but like society, we as a society have a tendency of making fun of and belittling things that women and particularly teenage girls are into.
Yes, we do.
So I think that a lot of the time it's like, it's almost like a defense mechanism when men are claiming that they are the backbone of any given fandom, because we can't give it to the girls.
Yeah,
because then it would be silly, right?
And especially acknowledging we can't give it to those damn fujoshi.
I mean, excuse me, the fujoshi are making sure that your shonen anime are getting, is getting the full series animated start to finish. Also, I saw this, and like this has nothing to do with fujoshi economy as such, but it's kind of related. There's this YouTube video that keeps popping up. Again, YouTube is like, I need you to watch this. I'm like, please, I'm trying to avoid discourse. Leave me alone. But there's this one video that keeps being suggested to me, which is basically like, has Sailor Moon become a sellout? And it's like basically based on the thumbnail, that it's like, oh, because there's so much merch and so many like character cafes and things, and it's like, but that's just Japanese fandom.
Yeah,
and of course the company is cashing in on it, but the reason they can do that is because the fans are so passionate, and we as fans can never get enough.
Exactly. And Sailor Moon is particularly interesting because I think Sailor Moon to this day does not know how to engage with how much of its fandom in the West is queer men. I don't think that they have any idea how to engage with that part of the fandom at all.
You might be right, because I don't think I've actually thought much about that, probably because I am looking at this from a very gay woman perspective, where I am over here.
So, in all of my years of paneling and convention, you hear stories. The amount of stories I've heard from like cis gay men who were like, Sailor Moon taught me that it's okay to want to be pretty, that this was my big understanding of femininity. I thought I learned a lot of aesthetic from Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was like truly a like, I'm now a gay drag queen pipeline. And more power to those people. But those are all parts of the BL economic system, is that those dollars that help make sure that your series is finished, that ensure that you get buttloads of merch, that allow these studios, these creators, these writers, these voice actors to do their thing, are filthy Fujo dollars.
Yeah.
It's not random pimply guy who, buys 50 copies of the same One Piece manga volume over and over again. It's always been Fujin money. It's never not. I've killed Carola.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's just my lungs are just collapsing. No big deal. Business as usual.
So Carola vanished this year, as she does every year for Christmas, and like every once in a while, I would worry about her, and then I would like see traces of her on like Twitter, like she's a cryptid. Like I would see signs of Carola in my feed somewhere.
There's been a lot of good Sasunaru art for New Year's.
Yeah. Like I would get like I would get trace glimpses of Carola in my feed, like she's fucking Bigfoot. And I'd be like, she's fine.
Yeah, like I was actually thinking about that. I was retweeting stuff in the middle of the night because I was going to bed, but I was waiting for something. I don't know what it was. I couldn't go to bed yet, and I was just like on Twitter, like retweeting Sasunaru and Banana Fish art, and I was like, well, at least now Amanda will know I'm still alive. Like,
literally, it's like this woman vanishes off the face of the planet regularly. It's worse around the holidays.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, I'll look to the sky and I'll see gay fan art, and it's like, oh, there she is.
but it's like this week in particular, it got even worse because I don't know what it is. Like, I keep my phone on silent, as anyone of my generation. I never turn the audio, like the volume on. But I do have a Fitbit, and so if I get a text message or a phone call, my watch vibrates, like my wrist vibrates.
Mm-hmm.
But the Fitbit did something, and now it doesn't notify me if someone calls me.
Mm.
And so this has created some problems when people are trying to get a hold of me, and like, they've messaged me, they haven't gotten an answer, so they try to call me. I don't know, because I'm used to my arm vibrating if people are
Nope.
like trying to reach me. But now it's turned off the setting. I tried turning it back on, but it apparently didn't work. So sorry, mother.
And I've just given up. It's like,
yeah, but you're not alone. Like, literally,
that
everyone.
doesn't help. I grimaced. It's not because of Carola vanishing. I've accepted that as terms and conditions.
Yeah, good.
We're actually expected to get snow this week.
Oh, you want some of mine?
Carola, the last time we got snow, people froze in their houses to death.
Yeah, I know.
Our electrical grid failed. And it was like the long night in Game of Thrones. People froze to death in their homes. Amanda makes a Game of Thrones reference. You can add that to your Yaoi Shelf bingo list.
Take a sip of water.
Take a sip of water if you... Amanda talks about Game of Thrones.
But I don't engage, and because I have been on Christmas holidays, and mostly when I'm not with my family, I have mostly been reading. So I have been very little on the internet. So I haven't really taken a deep dive into these threads, but I have seen that there's a discussion going around Twitter about, like, people are discussing BL, and then there are a lot of people, like, there's like a backlash because they're like, oh, people are talking about BL, but it's not BL, which is essentially what we do a lot of the time, because they don't see the connection that I know what you mean. Like, no, it's not BL like the way Given or Twittering Birds or Cherry Magic is BL.
The three shows we know.
I am begging. No, I have a lot of, like, listen, but I'm not going to talk about that because we would be here all day, but there are so many good BLs coming out this year. Like, there are. In anime form, in live action, in manga. Like, we're getting so many good things. I'm very excited. But I'm also like, how is Cherry Magic still ongoing? Like, I'm just buying these.
How is Hantu Yaju still ongoing?
I know, Amanda. Don't ask me that question.
You go ask. You go find that mangaka and be like, what are you on?
I was pleasantly surprised yesterday because I found out that Mobsters in Love apparently only has 2 volumes, and that made me very happy because that means I can invest in it.
Good. Speaking of buying, Yaoi, let's talk about the BL economy, which is on the same road but like a different lane. That only makes sense if you know how to drive, and Carola doesn't.
I don't know how to drive, but that's okay. I know how to spend money on BL in all forms. It's okay.
It just really came to my head that if you ever did visit me, which you never will, it would.
Can you blame me?
I didn't say that there wasn't a valid reason. I just said you would never visit me. I guess it's the ammo vending machine, but I know.
No, that was the drop that just made the glass overflow. I was like, you know what? No.
And I thought of how very airy and Suichi coded it is, that I'd be the one driving the entire time.
But I can't drive. What do you want me to do?
I don't want you to do anything.
Oh my! Have I told you? But like, and it's like, have I told you? And I know she's listening. Hello, my waifu in a different country who is listening to this podcast. I have a friend. I'm not going to name any names. She's Norwegian. She lives in Japan. She learned how to drive in Japan. And in Japan, they drive on the left side of the road. So picture this. We are out in the Norwegian winter to visit another friend who lives in the middle of nowhere. where there are no street lights. And my friend is driving, and she's already like, oh, I'm not very confident driving in Norwegian roads because I'm so used to driving on the other side of the road. And there we are, driving into the middle of nowhere. We're not sure where her house is. And then my friend driving says, "Where's the road?" And I was like, we are going to fucking die. We didn't die. It was fine, but like it was very scary.
Good to know I haven't been recording this podcast with your ghost or reanimated corpse. That's very...
I am the ghost twink from AichiYume. Surprise!
Carola, if you mention AichiYume one more time, that's going to be our Halloween episode this year.
I wouldn't mind. I have to reread it. I haven't read it in at least 5 years.
Could you imagine out of all of the things? It's like, what are we doing for Halloween? We're doing AichiYume.
I still want to do Trash Panda Dabi and Shigaraki, but
well, it didn't win, and that's for Patreon later.
Sad.
Let's talk about the BL economy.
Yeah,
which we are a part of, being BL content creators, which is still a term that like.
Yeah.
Like I love it and I hate it because there's so much like at least I know I did. I guess because Carola was hibernating, she didn't get to make the big sappy "I love my fans" post.
No, I haven't made any posts on any of my platforms.
But I know, like I said, I love that people listen to me and one of my best friends be unhinged. But also sometimes when I hit end record, I just have like an existential meltdown of like, I have said the most unhinged things on the internet and people are watching. And they encourage this behavior monetarily for some reason. They also encourage me to look this fucking cunty on a Sunday in which I am not leaving the house.
I have left the house today. I was out catching shiny Pokemon for Community Day, which was terrible and cold and awful.
It's like, also our patrons. Oh, shout out to what?
To my grandma for knitting me these warm sweaters.
It's like, shout out to our patrons who allow me to have my eyebrows always perfectly done. But the BL economy is an interesting system in which BL and fujin fans support each other and BL creators, be it mangaka, again, voice actors, especially on the fan voice actors, translators, especially fan translators, and pretty much the entire ecosystem around, especially fan-created BL works. We can really lump the official BL economy into that similar main BL economics. Like there's all, like we talked about Given. Given is so popular that there's a ton of legal merch. While of course there's always going to still be fan works, no one is starving for Given merch. You can get all the figures, all the Nindos, all the CDs, you can do that. It's on Spotify, for Christ's sake. Yes. We're not going to find the soundtrack to I Know Kusabi on Spotify.
Do we even know the soundtrack to I Know Kusabi?
It's just one song.
You know, I actually came across a remix of Spicy Marmalade the other day. And I was like, I saw the title and I was like, there's only one Spicy Marmalade. And I was right. And I was like, well, who is out there making... Okay, so that was fun.
For the longest time, my phone's ringtone was Glaring Dream of Light in the Black Mix, because I'm an edgelord. But then I remembered that phones don't make noise anymore. I haven't heard a ringtone in 10 years.
I have had the same ringtone since 2006 because I said... Okay, see, this is me being insane again, but back in the early 2000s, G used to do these commercials for the phone company Duango, and I said, when I get a phone that can actually have, like, proper audio, I am going to have him singing the Duango melody as my ringtone, and I have had that as my ringtone since 2005, 2006, but I don't hear it anymore because I'm on mute, but just know that I have a commercial jingle as my ringtone, sung by G, because this is who I am.
I hope that this is the thumbnail. Just me looking painted and smug. I hope that makes it. I hope that makes it into the thumbnail. Just looking fucking painted and smug. But the funny thing about the BL economy is, one, it is very old. We talk about the origins of BL and queer fan fiction, with, of course, its early startings in Japan, and then on the Western side, going as early as fucking Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
None of this is new. So supporting people who also enjoy your ship and your predilections towards certain things, especially on the fringes of those popular series, because that's where we are oftentimes. I think, especially being a veteran Fujo, it feels like shipping culture looms very large, and like, not the shitty kind that you get on TikTok discourse, but like,
I'm so glad I know nothing about that.
We'll have to talk about the woman who tried to gentrify Ita bags later.
Oh, right, that was a thing.
She also got canceled over Yachi Bitch Club, and personally, I've never been happier to see her go. Anyways,
I am this close to being canceled over Yarichin Bitch Club. I can feel it. But
if that's what finally cancels us,
after all I've said, I'm sorry, no.
Well, I've already been canceled once, so it's your turn.
In that case, I want to be canceled over something juicy. At least let it be twincest.
It's like, I've already been canceled once over something incredibly innocuous. It's your turn now.
Yeah, but that didn't even have anything to do with BL, so I feel like...
It really didn't.
Cool. Yeah.
But the BL economy is supporting especially fan creators, be it fanfic writers, fan artists, those who make doujin, even those officially created by, like, I don't want to say actual mangaka, but you know what I mean, like famous mangaka.
No, but a lot of famous mangaka started out as doujin artists and or assistants to existing mangaka. So
correct.
So a lot of people who end up becoming successful BL mangakas have their roots in making doujins based on other series. It's exactly. It's an ecosystem.
It is an ecosystem, and that's why we wanted to talk about it separately, because we receive money from Patreon. Thank you, patrons. Yes. You will be thanked at the end of this episode. And one of the most recent things I did with my Patreon money is I had a fic commissioned.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, amazing experience. Haven't done that in a while. But, like, that's what we've always done, is support each other. Whether it was monetarily, through sharing, through signal boosting, or just... I mean, we talk about the weird barter system I had when I was in high school, where it's like, I will write porn for food.
Yeah.
But that's always been a part. It's always been transactional.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, not necessarily transactional in the way that late capitalism is. It almost feels like an earlier version of society. Like, this is something that, like, our Paleolithic hunter-gatherer brothers and sisters would be doing. It's like, we'll write poetry for food.
Yeah.
And you just sit in your corner and crank out your non-Connie smut, and then someone, like, slides you a crisp $5.
Or, a handful of berries if you are in the hunter-gatherer society. You're drawing the cavemen getting it on the wall, and someone slips you a handful of berries.
Yeah, someone gives you like a handful of berries and some nice shells, like, as a tip.
Yes, I would like this. This is the society I want to live in, actually.
I know. Unironically, if someone, like, sent me a bunch of nice shells for my AO3 fic, I would be very happy.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, It's like, I've said this before. We're not very active anymore, but, like, I was a member of this group oh my god, the BL Creators Cafe, and we were just like a group of like Frosty was in there, Andy Dross was in there, a lot of my BL creator friends I met in this group, and all this group did was like they would make each other, like they would commission each other, and then they would use the money to commission the next one in line, and it was like, you know, it was this mini cosm in itself. And similarly I see it in like the fanfic, you know, I almost said trenches, but like in the fanfic world, that you'll have like people are like gifting each other fics, and it's like, I am writing this for this person who was my beta on this fic, and then they're like, this person gave me a gift, so I am now writing a gift in return. And it's like, you know, it is transactional and also based on love, and everyone just wants to support each other. I think that's beautiful.
No, it's literally that. And like when I commissioned my fic, it's like, so it was one of my like fanfic writer idols right now. Like I've always loved his work, and it's like, I have money, sir, please.
Yeah, like
that's the thing. You know, it's always amazing when we think about, like, you know, talking from experience from us. We usually use the money that we get to support other artists.
Yeah.
Whether it's as a podcast or individually.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Yes.
I think the last time we got paid, I put that money into a very nice commission coming my way, where I am commissioning an artist friend to draw some of my boys in a spicy position.
Exactly. Like we put that money back into the ecosystem. So it's not just like, my stored up Fujo dollars. No, it immediately goes back into supporting small creators and fan artists. And like, even when I do buy like yaoi and stuff like that with it, I tend not to get it from like large suppliers. I rather get it from someplace like Yiki Bean or something like that. So when I'm using that money that was given to us, because we are also part of the fujin economy, it goes back into the system to feed others.
Yeah. And like I have a separate savings account that is like my editing account. You know, everything I make from, you know, book sales or Patreon or whatever tends to go in there, because I have books that need editing in the future. This is expensive, but the editing account is also used when I need to commission someone to do, you know, cover art or illustrations or headshots. So, you know, it's, you know, people buy my books, and then I use that money to support other artists, and it's yes.
And like Carola and I will talk sometimes, and it's like, hey, we need to put this money towards something that we're going to buy for the podcast, or hey, we need to take this and we're each going to contribute a portion of it so we can do this for the show. Like we also feed into that economy so much. And what's amazing is that it truly has always been like this. There has always been that transactional aspect of it. And when I think of like conventions where you buy fan art, a lot of the reasons why, especially fan artists, are so popular in artist alleys isn't just because of the mainline stuff that they draw. It's because they have the shipping shit.
Yeah. And, you know, if you look at, I think, you know, regardless of if you look at the Western, you know, conventions and artist alleys and like the markets, or you look at like the Japanese ones, it truly is, you know, a passion project. And
it is.
And things like, you know, like the doujinkas in Japan, like they don't make money. They break even. No. Like it's all about like they put their own money into printing the books, and then they basically ask for you know, they ask back what they paid per copy to get printed. So they basically just break even. And then there's this lovely culture. I've heard that like in Comic Fest, you know, Comiket or Comic Festa, that typically you exchange doujins with your table mates or like the people sitting next to you, because it's like a way of networking and supporting one another. And it's very, you know, I think that it's similar in Western fan spaces. Obviously our conventions and our, you know, like artist alleys, they work differently. But again, no one's really doing this to make money.
No.
If you make money over breaking, like above breaking even, that's just a nice bonus. Like you're really just out there wanting to share your passion and promote your ship
Yeah.
And, and if you're lucky, make back what you paid for the booth.
Exactly. Like, that's, I think the other big thing is, I don't want to say altruistic, but like, I know, at least again, like speaking for us, this could not ever replace my full-time job.
No.
I love it. It gives me a lot of power. I enjoy it. It's one of the highlights of my month. This is not replacing my full-time job. That's one of the big reasons why, especially because it is such a passion project. Usually that monetary aspect of it just either goes back into taking care of the show or supporting other artists who like the same things.
Yeah.
So there's this really, really interesting, kind of break-even barter system that exists, fujin to fujin, where again, like a lot of it is, hey, I know that this realistically, monetarily, is not a lot, but it's important because I'm showing you how much I care. I'm showing how much your fanfic, your fan art, your horny sex videos. So I have mixed feelings about those. I did see one. It was to Vash the Stampedes. It was Vashcest. And I was so transfixed because it looked and sounded so good. And then it was like, oh, this is sex. I didn't register that it was horny for a while. And I think I legally viewed that clip like 100 times.
Yeah. Yeah, that checks out.
And it was just like, oh.
But it's just it's one of those things, like, this is just so commonplace for us. It's it's like, I did tweet this from our account sometime in December because I just genuinely forget that het porn exists sometimes. And like we follow Faku, right? And
yes, we do.
And Faku are, they're the company that basically, like, they're the head company of Kuma. And Kuma publishes BL, but Faku mostly has, like, straight hentai. And but it's just, like, I don't usually watch that kind of stuff or, like, read that kind of stuff. So if I see something, like, my brain registers the porn first, and then I have, like, my hand hovering on the retweet button. And then I'm like, oh, wait, there are boobs in this. Or, like, that's a vagina. Like, I just don't register. I need help.
Laughs in the amount of boy pussy I consume.
I mean, yes. But that was no boy pussy, sadly.
I know, but like just internal cackling at the sheer.
No, I've had some of that in my fiction. There's a lot of this in the Kinporsche fic world for some reason, and it's not my favorite, but a lot of the authors I like tend to write it, so I'll read it, I guess. It's
We almost did an episode about this, but it would be too controversial. But the BL economy keeps itself going, and one big thing that I think makes it so worth it is how much of it is run on passion, how much of it is done really for subsistence. I think I remember I had like a minor Twitter beef with someone who like wasn't writing fic like for free at all and like was only selling fic. Like that was like their main subsistence. It was only selling. And that like felt very weird to me in a way that I at first assumed was generational. But then I realized, I don't like it because it's turning this thing that I love into capitalism, which is what I've been trying to avoid by reading BL. You've turned this into the machine that's going to destroy us all, and I don't like that. And trust me, I am an OG hustler. I am not here to say don't get your coin, but it felt so weird to me to just be like, fan fiction equals money source. That was like, I can't handle this. This is a field too far. Like novels, like what Carola does, of course. Yes, do it. Naturally. but like the idea of like taking someone else's IP
Yeah.
especially and is like this is that felt that being your primary source of income felt very weird.
Yeah, and I've always thought that like, and we've talked about this because
Mm-hmm.
you've always been part of the fujin economy, again, like hustling for cookies or whatever. But like, but I always felt like that was weird because, and it's interesting because for me, there's
Mm-hmm.
always been like such a divide between, which
Mm-hmm.
is weird, right? Like selling fan art versus selling fanfic, but maybe that's
Yes.
the writer in me that's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind if people write fics of my novels, and I've had
Mm-hmm.
that happen, and it was a wild experience. I was like, oh my god,
Mm-hmm.
someone's writing me fanfic. But I don't know how I'd feel about someone making money off of my characters, especially when I'm barely making money off them as it is. So like I find that like a little weird, but then I'm like perfectly fine with people selling fan art, and I think like that is weird. I think that is like a me thing. It's like a mental
Yeah.
blockage.
Yeah, that is by no means like meant to reflect the entire world. There's a video that I remember seeing forever ago about like is fan art legal, and it basically like it's like a jump scare. It's like no into video, but
Mhm.
like there's a longer video behind it.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
but no.
complicated, and again,
Yeah.
like Japanese copyright laws are very different from Western
Yes.
copyright laws.
Yes.
And Akamatsu Ken, who made Love Hina and
Mhm.
Negima, actually
Mhm.
tried to launch this. I think it was called like the Dojin mark, where like he encouraged mangaka to have like this mark in the beginning or like at the back of their manga that was
Mhm.
basically a license, that like a stamp that basically told the readers that, hey, it's okay if you make dojin and make money off of fan
Mhm.
art. But apparently it didn't take off. I did talk to some academic about this at one point and ask them about it, but I can't really remember what they said. But yeah, apparently it didn't really take off, but an attempt was made. But most
Yeah.
mangaka are, and again, because they come from that same, path, like they've been
Mhm.
dojin artists or they've consumed dojin,
Mhm.
and especially I think again within BL,
Mhm.
so that it's different. Whereas we had there was Anne Rice among other things. Like we had it scared into us, and maybe that's why I've always been like,
I
no,
think
you can't sell fanfic
I
because they
think
will
that's
come for
part of
you.
it. I think the Anne Rice lawsuit, which we will probably talk about more in the live stream, because I feel like that's one of those like fan history moments where those of us of a certain generation, we're old, know about, but like the kids don't fucking get it. Like
Yeah.
oh my god, I was talking about Anne Rice not too long ago because one of my friends just went to New Orleans and it's like, oh my god, are you gonna do all the Anne Rice stuff? And it's like, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of hers. Like, I
Mm.
love my gay vampires, but she's not my favorite person. And I had to explain, oh, she's one of the big reasons Quizilla was taken down.
Mm.
It was Anne fucking
But
Rice.
yeah, like, and I said this before, like because I was one of the people. I never read the Vampire Chronicles. I still haven't read them. I'm looking to get my hands on some pretty copies now. I really want to read them,
Mm-hmm.
but I never read them growing up, and I came into fanfic, and like I've said before, like I just basically
Mm-hmm.
just duplicated what I saw my seniors doing. So I just like
Yep.
just copied the whole disclaimer thing, and I knew that it was
Yes.
very, very important to put the disclaimer and say that you mean no harm, you make no money, you do not own the
Yes.
characters.
Oh my
But I didn't
god.
know why. And then I learned why.
Yeah.
And then it was like 2 years ago that I took a deep dive and actually read up properly on the
Right.
Anne Rice lawsuit.
No, 100%. Because I remember doing that on Quizilla, where it's like, I don't own any of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
None of this is done. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's so funny to think about now. Like, if you ask like a modern like commish fan fictioner about using disclaimers,
Yeah.
they'd blow their fucking gasket.
But it's so funny because I was talking to my teenage colleagues that I work with at the library. Like, we do the volunteer work. We make the youth
Yes.
events, and I'm like their mentor. And a lot of them consume fan fiction, and I asked
Yeah.
them, do they still have do they do the disclaimer things in the
Yeah.
fics that you guys are reading? And they said yes. And I was like, do you know why that's there? And they had no idea. And I was like, oh, let me tell you a story. It was like, it's such a...
It's so weird because, yeah, like, I mean, I don't do disclaimers anymore, which is crazy because I remember doing them vividly when I was like 12 and 13.
I don't think I could write fic without doing it. Like, I would feel like something was missing. It's just so ingrained.
And I also think that there's a huge difference between how that feels on the Western end and how that feels on the Eastern fan front. Because, like, we talked about this during the piracy episode, is that it feels much different, you know, trying to, like, pirate a doujin from a mangaka who you already know now is not being paid by the system fairly than it does to pirate something from Sony.
Yeah.
Those have very different mouth feels. It feels way different saying, oh, I ripped this series from Crunchyroll versus I went to Kinko's and hand copied this doujin that I bought in Japan. Those have very different feelings and implications. I think that might be one of the reasons why, especially fanfic, kind of moved away from disclaimers, is that it is so attached now to the Western side of it, and it is very detached from the Eastern side, and even the Eastern side that is attached to it is usually on the studio level, not on the creator level. So people aren't saying, oh, this series by this mangaka. They're saying this anime by MAPPA.
Oh, MAPPA.
So I think that might be part of it, is that we've really detached mangaka from really financial and social benefit of creating their own works. Which is a different conversation.
Yeah.
But that might be one of the reasons why it was so easy to kind of fall off with disclaimers, because I don't feel bad writing fanfic for something that was made by Crunchyroll. That doesn't make me feel guilty. Anne Rice was a unique scenario because that was her work. She was seeing it and she didn't like it.
Yeah.
That's a very different scenario. I can still hate her for it.
I mean, yeah.
But that's different. Like you'd said, like if you, like I never had fanfic of my original work be made, because I really didn't. I mean, I still do make original works, but they're like in an archive somewhere, and they will be shoved into the pyramid with me when I die. When I'm allowed
one too.
Well, I thought I was always going to be buried.
Oh, like, yeah, in my pyramid.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because I can't build yours. It's racist.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to be in it.
Yeah,
okay, I'll make sure there's like a little chamber for your stuff.
Like, I don't want like a main chamber. It's like a lower chamber in the pyramid. Like when people go to rob slave goods, they find my chamber first, and it's just like all this unpublished OC work.
I'll make sure that someone installs like some traps around it so they can't get to it easily. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But like, I think the craziest thing someone said to me about my OC work is that like one of my stories inspired them to try a new position in sex, and I was just like, neat. Goes back to that like wank and tell conversation that we had, that it's like either I don't want to know. It's like either I don't want to know about this at all, or I need excruciating details.
That's the kind of thing I want to hear, but I had to go through, the emotional trauma of realizing, again, that my fan base overlapped, like their readership was overlapping with Twilight. And then I was like, oh, good God, am I also inspiring them to glorify horrible and toxic relationships?
I don't think you are.
And I was worried. No, and neither did my editor, whom I emailed in a panic at 3 a.m. After having this realization.
I think the way you treat Aki is obviously aware that you don't glorify this. You clearly hate him.
I love him. I love that kid, but like, boy has problems, and I don't like, he needs love from the fans, but I don't think we should be endorsing what this boy is doing. Those are two very different things. I think he needs help. Unfortunately, he's quite resistant to it. So there's that. It's not his fault.
We're going to start a side comic, and it's just like us giving therapy to our horrible characters.
Yeah.
Because I remember, so I went down that Hatoful boyfriend thing, and I was like, Good lord, I sure do love like horrible doctors, and it's like, oh, I forgot I had a horrible doctor years ago. I need one. I have a horrible doctor OC
I'm shocked, really.
from, from like the early 2000s. He's actually, I think, somewhat a little worse than Shu Iwamine.
Like, is he like, again, I'm gonna bring out the, the guy from Tsukisho. Like, is it, it's like experimenting on teenagers level?
Technically,
Oh, great. Yeah.
there's also a very unhealthy fetish of sleeping with patients, especially patients that can't resist.
Ooh, yeah, no.
And then I stare at like Shu, and it's like I was designed to love you. Like,
And yet, you are constantly crusading against my favorite therapist.
because he thinks he's good.
He's good at something. Not that. But
I don't think when Shu Iwamine goes to bed, he looks in his like pretty bird mirror and is like, I'm a great nurse.
maybe he does. I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. He's a bird.
When he goes to his little cage, his enclosure, and he has his like, I need enrichment mirror. And he does his affirmations. I don't think
God.
one of his affirmations is, I'm a good nurse and I helped those children. I don't think he does that.
I don't know. He's a bird. What? I don't know what goes through his little birdie mind.
Fan art I need to make just like this blood-soaked cartridge.
But like, imagine though, because the mirrors in the little bird cages, they're typically round. So like, all of him fits in the little mirror.
Like,
it's like,
this is like full face. It's like, I really helped those children today.
Yeah.
But the BL economy is interesting because, like there is this desire really to feed small creators and the direct source, which in a lot of instances are mangaka. But also, again, I mentioned like the Roman Reigns thing for wrestling. A lot of that translated directly to supporting Roman Reigns, not necessarily the wrestling company that he was under, which was terrible and still is. Because it was WWE, ran at the time by Vince McMahon.
Again, means nothing to me, but
who wrote an incest plot for him and his daughter.
Oh,
that is the chillest. That is the chillest thing Vince McMahon has done.
That's
That is the chillest thing Vince McMahon has done. Straight up killed a guy.
Oh.
Yeah. Owen Hart was a Canadian wrestler, and he was supposed to like this flying entrance. No one checked it for safety. No one tested it with his body weight. No one checked anything. So he's like, this feels unsafe. I don't like this. And everyone's like, no, Owen, just dive. That man collides with the floor, becomes like putty. And it was all because of Vince's negligence. To this day, the Hart family has not received any kind of apology from Vince McMahon, even though he is directly implicated in the death of Owen Hart. Welcome to Wrestling with Amanda.
Woo! Okay.
But it feels so much better and easier. And also, I think one thing I love about like fan fiction to me is that fan fiction is always kind of separate from the main work. Because, again, my realm really is fix it. And it's AUs and stuff like that. So I'm not writing like, main ship het fan fiction.
Who is? Again, I forget that straight fics exist.
It exists. But like I'm on those fringes with a lot of other fanfic writers of this generation where like I am not here to perpetuate like main story, which is why I'm writing another Matt and Mellow fic. I am not here to continue the Kira investigation. I'm here to give these boys a personality.
I couldn't, because I don't think I'm smart enough to follow all the like the twists and the turns and the legal jargon, and I know that's not me. But I've said this before. I mean, mandatory kinporsche mention, but this is the first time really that I've gotten into a fandom where I'm reading fic and I enjoy reading fic that is canon compliant. But I also think that is also because it's, it is the mafia world. I love mafia stuff, so it's fine. But if I was reading Naruto, I never read Ninjaverse unless it was like of my like my favorite authors who just happened to write something that was Ninjaverse. I'd read it, but I would go for the AUs, and I love AUs.
And I think no, go ahead.
No, but it's exactly that it's kind of like it's separate, and it's you create kind of like your own. You kind of make it your own.
You do.
Yeah.
And I think, so to give like an actual overview of like monetizing fan works, again, we have the legacy of fan art that we see at conventions and dojin. That's of course your early steps. And then I think as things start to move to the internet, there, of course, was some buying and trading on sites like Quizilla and Zanga, but it was all very, like, small dollar amounts or, like, favors. Again, it's that, like, berries and shells economy where it's like, oh, or also it was a lot of collaboration. So, like, I wrote one part, my friend wrote the other, and then we combined on the ending.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of working together, or, like, shells and berries, where it's like, I'll give you this extra keychain that I have when I see you at the next convention in the parking lot. It wasn't like high dollar. Then you get into the place where money is made, which is DeviantArt. DeviantArt revolutionized the idea that your weird fan shit, and I say weird lovingly, is worth a premium.
But I do remember that as being somewhat controversial in the early 2000s. Yeah.
It was never, I think that's the other big thing is like, so like that ick that I had about like, I'm a professional commission writer. It's like, ugh. Like that's always, that has always been there. It's not new. Because like I would get squicked seeing that on DeviantArt where it's like, oh, do you want me to draw My Little Pony? I can draw My Little Pony. That's $5,000.
Yeah.
And like that discomfort has been there. Realistically, we could do a whole other episode on like copyright and fan legality. So let us know.
We might have to bring in an expert for that.
If you or anyone would like to join us talking about like fan art and fan legality, let us know in ye old comments or at our email, theyaoishelf@gmail.com. Again, that is theyaoishelf@gmail.com. I'm getting better. I'm getting better with my ad reads.
Yeah, you're very good at those.
Thank you. But DeviantArt taught creators that, I can make money doing this. I remember DeviantArt's like gallery where you could like certain pieces of art you could just like purchase. Like,
yeah.
I wanted to say like it's real art. It is real art, but you know what I mean. Like they really revolutionized the commerce aspect of fan art in a way that I think had lasting implications to fandom. Whether those implications are good or bad, I leave up to your discretion, dear listener. I think we then had a pretty staunch phase of, there was a dry period for creating in general, where, of course, there was always still fanfic and fan art, but it all felt a little soulless for a while. There was a period like in the 2010s, and maybe it was the Super Hulock, maybe it was the coming purity war with Voltron, but there was a period in the 2010s where everything just felt a little soulless.
Probably. I feel like I wasn't even conscious during that, because I feel like for me, that when you're probably right that it was soulless, but in my experience, when I think about it, I think that was the kind of the phase where I didn't really have a home on the internet, because it was like because I was on Tumblr, and I was like very much enjoying retweet, like not retweeting, but like
Reblogging.
reblogging,
Yes.
artworks and pictures and things. But I never liked reading fic on Tumblr, much like I
Yes.
don't like thread fic on Twitter. I think it's messy and confusing. I don't like it. I am a traditionalist. I am old. Leave me
I
alone.
like it when it's formatted well, but it has to be formatted really
Yeah,
well.
and it's like, but then Tumblr did, because this was, LiveJournal was dying. Like, it was still there, but it was actively dying.
Correct.
And Tumblr was there, but I didn't find the fandom community in Tumblr in the same way.
No.
And then Tumblr banned porn.
Yes,
so
in
for a
2016.
while there, I was homeless fandom wise, and so I didn't really see how people were, doing the whole fandom exchange and commissions and everything. Like, it was just when I started using Twitter a lot more in the way that I use it now, even though that is also, on active death support, life support, whatever. But that, I started following creators, and, more people started getting patrons. People are using, like having the, the pinned tweets with all their commission info and everything. So this space in between, I have no idea what people were doing. So, but maybe they weren't doing anything. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's why I didn't know what was happening.
No, they were doing something.
Okay.
Again, like Super Hulock was a thing. Things were happening. Was it good? I leave that up to individual interpretation. But things were happening. There was just like this weird hollowness to it that I can't explain. Like, everything just felt like it was like tinged sepia back then. And then, as Carola mentioned, a lot of us, especially older fujin, were homeless until we found places like Twitter. And I think with Twitter and the rise of social media, we get sites like Patreon. Now, Patreon allows you to be a professional fan artist, which we've admitted in this episode, sometimes we have mixed feelings about. For the most part, again, I love supporting independent artists. When your art is someone else's IP, and you're making a lot of money off of this, I have questions, concerns. That is not a judgment. It's just a question. Like, so for me, the big example of that will always be Fausto Kingdom, who was like a bara yaoi artist who did a lot of like Disney and DC Comics porn. And Fausto was good, but his bread and butter really was like DC characters and Disney. So guess who got shut fucking down? And people were so indignant. They were so mad. It's like, I can't believe this bara artist is being punished. And it's like, you can't make a living drawing Batman dicking down his biological son and not expect major companies to see this. Like, it's different. Like, it's different in my case where, yes, I have written Batman characters engage in illicit activity. I've also made no money off of it.
True.
It's very different.
We are talking about a company that is like, Batman can't eat pussy. So I feel like...
Yeah. So, again, like Disney, very litigious.
Yeah.
Has a reputation to uphold. What did you expect?
Yeah, we don't fuck with Disney.
We don't.
In any form of that word, really.
No. So... Patreon comes in and really allows artists to revolutionize, artists in all forms, what they can do. And I love that. We're getting to this almost like post-Patreon period because Patreon has had issues, including issues with processing payments because of sex work and things like that. It's had a lot of issues with different countries. And now we see the rise of sites like Coffee, which has always been there, but like is definitely gaining popularity. Etsy is trying to make a weird resurgence. And it's not doing well, but sites like big,
just getting worse.
Yeah, but sites like Big Cartel and stuff like that, where people are able to host their work and then ship out and do all like the weird CMS stuff. That's hard, which is research that we have to do because we want to start selling more products. And I need to figure out how to do that without turning my home into a post office.
Yeah, don't do that.
But there's been this really, really interesting trajectory of being able to support the BL economy. And I think it's amazing that one, it very much has almost always been rooted online. While we did very much have our, sticks and berries trades, most of that history is online.
Mm.
And how much of it is in this more altruistic want of making money off of your passion rather than feeding the beast.
Mm.
So that's the BL economy.
Yeah.
If you're wondering, what is
the short version?
Yeah, that's the incredibly short version. We don't have time for things like Cameo, which is a site that I actually quite like.
Mm.
You don't know what Cameo is, do you?
I've heard about it, but I'm old, and I'm like, I can't be bothered learning new things anymore. Leave me alone.
Sometimes,
I've seen people talk about it.
So I'm never not aware that I'm younger than Carola. I'm never unaware of that.
Thank you.
It's on my fridge every time I go to get.
Oh my god! This is a side note, but I was at this Asian grocer that sells like a whole bunch of import stuff, which is mostly like Asian snacks and things.
Yes.
But they had like a whole row of those little Kool-Aid packets. And I was gonna send you a picture.
I need to send you more Kool-Aid.
Good God.
Have you had the one that I gave you?
No, because, I have to make a whole picture, and
You're afraid?
I don't know what I'm supposed to drink it all. I'll have to have people over or something.
I look forward to to a Norwegian taste test.
Oh God.
Of American Kool-Aid. You also have to add a lot of sugar.
Yeah, but go on about your site that I know nothing about.
So like Cameo, it allows you to like buy little like certain. So it basically allows you to like buy time from like certain celebrities and influencers and stuff like that.
Right,
so they can give you like a personal message. Some of these people are very, very affordable. Some of them are not. I wanted to get my friend a cameo from John Taffer, who does Bar Rescue, which is a show that only Americans can appreciate. But a 15-second cameo from John Taffer was like $1,000.
Good God.
And my friend was like,
I did hear someone talk about this in a rant video.
Yes. And my best friend was like, Amanda, I know that we care about each other, but if you spend $1,000 for John Taffer to tell me happy birthday, I will kill you. Like, if that money doesn't go anywhere fucking else, I swear to God. But places like Cameo, I know, so the voice actor for Wolfwood in English, he'll usually do like a live cameo like signing of your art, of your print, when you buy autographs from him. And he's been known to like tease the whole like Vashwood thing because he knows it brings in money. So now it's this more of like personalized experience aspect. So again, we see like that very narrow commissioning. It's like, I want this done in this setting on this couch with these characters.
Yeah.
And I want this, and this. And then someone lovingly takes your list of demands and goes and writes. And then gives you exactly what your grubby heart desires. Which is what I got.
See, there is no need, people, to use AI or, ChatGPT or anything. No. There are fan artists and fan writers out there who will do this for you and do it well. Yeah.
Yeah. You get, and especially a lot of them now are doing less things like structured Patreon and more like, oh, like if you tip me $5, I'll put your request in Sketchbox or something. So it's even less of a commitment. Like rather than like, you have to pay thousands of dollars. Now it's, hey, if you tip me a $5, I might draw your niche porn.
Yeah, and like I have a lot of, you know, artists that I follow. Like every time I commission someone, it's either someone I know personally and I'll
Mhm.
be like asking them, "Hey, do you have time?" But
Right.
mostly they'll open commission slots and they'll like announce it in their socials, and you know,
Mhm.
I'll just like DM them and be like, "Hey, could you do this for me
Mhm.
since your DMs, you know, since your slots are open." But I've also seen like, you know, people using coffee for this, you know, they'll have like
Mhm.
a day where they're like, "Hey, I want to draw some stuff, you know, drop me a coffee and write a
Right.
request, and I'll do as many as I can, you know?"
And
And
I
I
think
think
it's
that
also
that's really, yeah.
I think it's also important though to mention that while we say that there are like these really, really interesting legal issues that come with it, sites like AO3 still do not publicly allow you to say that this work is commissioned.
Hmm.
Because they get weird when you say like, "Oh, I paid for this." And that's crazy to me. Well, it's not crazy to me, but it's wild. But like out of all the things that AO3 is okay with, the one thing you can't acknowledge is the thing that is probably most foundational to fandom, which is fucking trading.
But I mean, I guess there's a difference between saying like this is a trade, like a fixed
Yeah.
trade or an art trade,
Yes.
and saying like flat out, "I paid for this." Maybe that is
Yes.
like some sort of like it's like a legal defense
It
for the
is a
site
it is a
because it,
legal thing.
yeah,
Yeah. No,
because
I understand why they
on
do it.
paper, fandom is very much non-profit.
Yes. No, 100%. Except for that one time that Akon stole a bunch of money from people.
Hmm. It's always Akon, isn't it?
The convention, not the person.
Yeah. No.
Oh,
The
I was
convention.
like, yeah, it's welcome
Although
to
I did listen to someone talk about like the state of, I don't know if it was conventions or artist alleys, and New York City Comic Con or whatever came up a lot.
we don't have time to talk about that. It's been
No.
almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
But we can redo the BL con scene and talk about like especially the death of American conventions because they're just becoming autograph shows, which is not what anyone wanted.
I mean, I don't have anything to add to that apart
Which
from,
is
I guess, like,
why ToruCon should fly me in.
yeah, because we have a lot of money.
I
We're super.
go find it. I don't know. Go go ask a polar bear. Just go find it.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, but that's a little bit about the BL economy. I think this was a great episode to start the season on. If the last few seasons have been about like necessary conversations and everything like that, I feel like a lot of this season, in a lot of ways, is like going back to basics, but like 3.0. We've
Hmm.
established these things, we talked about them, and unfortunately, because discourse is hell, the things we said either need to be said again or we need to make some changes to what we said. Like, realistically, we probably need to do a fujin etiquette episode again. Because the children have forgotten when you encounter a fic you don't like, you just leave.
I cannot believe that once again, I have tried to stay away from the internet during the holidays because I've been
Yes.
trying to enjoy my life.
Yes.
But occasionally I have relapsed and looked on Twitter. And what I have seen is that we are once again having well, we are not, but
Yeah,
people
we're
are once
not.
again having the conversation where the young fandom people are claiming that it is unnecessary and stupid to signify who tops and who bottoms based on which order their names are in. God damn it, I am begging. Learn fandom history and etiquette. There's a reason for this.
So, this season is going to be a lot of okay, we need to go back to basics, but we need to go back to basics in a new way because
Hmm.
apparently the children aren't listening. Our audience
Well,
is listening. Y'all are great.
yeah, but like the children aren't listening to us anyway. So ideally, we could do a
I'm hoping
whole
I'm hoping
season.
to reach them.
I think we could, like, it doesn't really matter. We could do a whole season where like every episode we choose to focus on one problematic yaoi, and we just talk about that for 2 hours.
Isn't that what we do for fun all the time?
Yeah,
We
but
we we could in theory dedicate an entire episode just to Yoshiki Kitazawa.
you do realize that one thing I think that we need to do this year,
Oh
because
god.
it is coming out, we do need to do a thing on the summer Hikaru died.
Yes.
Ah,
I'm fine with that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm excited.
I was scared for a minute. I was like, oh god, what's she gonna make me read this time?
Ah, no, find
in,
you something.
in in pure 2000 seme fashion, I was like, oh god, what is she gonna make me do?
I can't make you do anything, unfortunately. Just as little as you can make me do anything.
I was about to say that is very mutual. That is, I can't make Carola do jack or
It's okay.
shit.
No one, I can't make myself do
Carola
anything.
is
So,
truly
uh,
ungovernable in
yes.
all of the best ways.
Uh.
That sounded so tired.
I am tired. I don't like that's the thing. I tried my best to rest up during the holidays, but it
Yes.
doesn't work because my battery is flat. Like I'm one of these like old phones that you just can't charge. And
Yes.
then I come out of it and I get hit with the shock of the world resuming while I'm still just trying to get my head above water. And then January depression hits, and now I'm even more tired than I was in December. Woo!
I love that for you.
No.
Carola, do we want to tell the listeners what we're doing next month and then we can thank our patrons?
Yeah. Yeah, we could do it in that order.
Oh, how gracious of you. Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought that maybe that would be like a nice like a softer end to the episode.
Do you want to? We can thank the patrons first. Let's thank the patrons.
Oh, okay. So you
What
don't
do
want
you?
No, do you not want a softer ending?
No.
Okay,
But also,
well then
but also, this is my OTP, so no, I don't. You are correct. No, ma'am. Okay, we'll thank the patrons at the end. Carola, what are we covering next month?
next month is February. It is the month of love, and we are, of course, celebrating in true Yaoi Shelf fashion by talking about a polarizing topic. It is time to talk about BL misogyny. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day. Let's talk about hating women.
It's gonna be yeah.
I think this has been an episode that has been such a long time coming because both of us have talked. I love the thought. It's like, yeah, you're right.
No, but I had to I was like, are we back on the BL economy now, or are you talking about next month? Okay, yeah, no, absolutely, because this is something that we have touched upon a lot. It does keep coming up for reasons.
Yes. And I think it's so important to finally put like a name and face to it, because I think sometimes when we say it, it doesn't resonate as something that everyone does. It resonates as something that we do, and it makes us look bad. No. BL has had a misogyny problem for checks notes ever. Because media checks notes has a misogyny problem.
And also, interestingly, people are hating on Fujoshi because checks notes misogyny problem.
Right. Like,
you can't win.
You can't win. There are so many issues when it comes to being a fujin of any kind that are really very... What I'm always amazed by is that, like, fujin hate is not homophobic. It's misogynistic. It has nothing to do with the existence of queer people. It has everything to do with the presence of women.
It's just, just throwing it out there now that, while I remember it. Another thing that I have been unwillingly seeing on the internet recently is that, once again, we're doing the whole I am not, the whole Yaoi versus Yuri thing, where Yuri fans are claiming that BL fans, or Fujoshi, are being mean to them. I have never seen a BL fan slander a Yuri fan or a Yuri series.
Yeah, we've never done that.
But vice versa. And why is that, you ask? Misogyny.
So it might feel like we're coming out of left field talking about misogyny when it comes to BL, but we'll be talking about it in both phases. One, as misogyny exists in BL series, because two, that helped a lot of us fuel the misogyny inside all of us. It's really those poorly written female characters across the board, especially in BL, that fueled that deep monster inside of us that was placed there by patriarchal society. I'm thrilled.
Yeah. It's gonna be a doozy.
It's gonna be one hell of an episode because I think it's so necessary. And then I think like so many of like the little like fujin inter wars that we have, when I think about like is this fetishizing gay men, like how much of that is just misogynistic?
Yeah.
I mean, points to our episode with Dr. Thomas where he just says a lot of it's misogynistic. But like I think a lot of people who are really deeply ingrained in that war still haven't figured it out. That like, oh, I'm just doing a misogyny.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk about BL misogyny next month in honor of February, the month of love. Because we make our schedules months in advance.
Yeah.
And sometimes I say something crazy and Carola takes too long to say no. And it gets to be.
Well, you know, I don't know if this is a term that exists in other languages. In Norwegian, we have a term that basically means that if it's actually a terrible thing to say when you think about it, but we have this expression, den som tier samtykker, and it means he who or they who stay quiet are consenting, which doesn't sound great when you put it like that, actually.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I know! Like,
change Norway to non-con. What the fuck?
Non-con nation. No, but it's supposed to be like if you're like in a meeting and a decision is presented, and if you don't argue, then it means that you agree.
Yeah,
do not apply it to sexual situations. That is not okay.
Norway is not sponsoring your non-con.
This is terrible. Can we make that into a sticker? Norway is not sponsoring your non-con.
We can. Speaking of stickers and everything, you can support us in various places, including Instagram. Unfortunately, we're still on Twitter. In Blue Sky, which we're getting much better being on.
Yes.
We do have our very own 18 plus Discord that gets very, very active. And like, I was going to say not to toot my own horn, but I don't like the way that sounds in my mind. But like, you know, if I'm allowed to puff up a little bit, I'm quite proud of the community that we've built. And by we, I mean me, because Carola's over here.
I want to say that there was a period where I was very good at actually looking in and participating.
Yes, there was.
But then I get social fatigue and I need 2 months of rest. So I am technically in the Discord, but I am a rare sighting.
Yes, it's very, very funny because I think there was like one time that like I was like hands and knees desperate, like, Carola, I need you to do something. And she did it beautifully for that one weekend. And then never did it again. But it was pretty I think it was last year that like there was one weekend that I was just like hands and knees, like, I need you.
Yeah.
Please help me. And she did it for the exact allotment that I said I needed her. And then she vanished into the woods again.
I do want to say, though, for those listening who are in the Discord, this is 100% a me thing. And I want you to know, if you are not following me on my personal socials, you don't know this, but I have not checked my personal Blue Sky for a month. I have not posted, I don't think I've posted anything to my author Twitter at all since the new year started. I am so swamped with just like living right now. So it's just me being...
Kids, your mom still loves you.
I'm just not very functional.
She's busy.
I'm not even... Yeah. It's terrible.
She's playing bridge with the girls. Don't worry.
I don't even know how to play bridge.
I don't know how to play bridge either.
I don't know what it is.
It's a card game.
Yeah, I know it, but like I don't get it.
In incredibly black news, I do know how to play dominoes.
I don't know how to do that either.
I'll teach you.
But okay.
The crossover of the century. We finally meet in Japan. I teach you how to play dominoes.
God. That's what you want to do.
Carola, I feel like us finally meeting in person is going to be so lopsided. Of like me just like, oh my god, I'm so excited to see this person that I've known and that I care about and that I trust, and you're just gonna be like, this loud American keeps talking to me.
To be fair though, literally, like, this is just me on a regular basis. Like,
right.
my default, like, I have been on Invisible on Discord for 2 months because I needed a break, and I just never turned it back on. No. And I, whenever someone messages me on any platform, does not matter who they are. Like, it could be my own mom. My default response as I see the screen light up or whatever is like, what the hell do you want?
Yeah. So, no. Carola and I meeting in real life, there's not going to be like those like heartwarming, like there's music swelling in the background and it's like two friends running at each other. It's going to be me experiencing every emotion known to man and Carola standing there confused. Like, why do I exist?
Just Norwegian things. We don't do social very well. Right. I don't know, there's like something here that
y'all don't do social interaction. So if you would like to continue to support the BL economy, we also have merch that goes on Redbubble. I'm quite proud of a lot of our merch, including our original lemon design that I still think is the best thing I've ever designed in my entire history of designing for this show.
I do love the lemon design.
He's so good. He's so good. And we get to introduce the hotter version of that quite soon this year.
Yeah. We've been sitting on him for a long time.
He's been sitting on other things, but we've been sitting on him.
Oh, that okay, yeah. Just squishing him down there. Okay, no, it's fine.
That's not. No, Carola. That's okay.
What do you want from me?
I no longer. No. Your engagement really helps us out. So please feel free to leave us a rating. We have a 4.5 on Spotify, which is amazing to me. But I also want to know what negative things people have to say. Spotify, let us as creators know what reviews say. I am so desperate to know. You can also review us on anywhere else you get podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, which is a substantial amount of our listenership. Thank you so much for being here. So feel free to like, comment, engage, share. This is the part of the show now where we will thank our patrons because we don't want to conflate our patrons with misogyny.
No.
Starting with Starlight, Kenny, Dobie80, Koval, Sue, Lucy H, Amora Blue, Nabila, Rin, Wesley, Jamie, Lauren, and Jay. Thank you so much for continuing to support the show and to feed into the BL economy because we promise we make very responsible decisions with the money that is given to us. It usually either goes back into the show or back into BL.
Yes. Which honestly, very responsible.
And it is.
Your support helps us support other fujin.
Realistically, your support helps us continue to be a part of the BL economy.
Yeah.
Because that money almost immediately just goes back into the ecosystem. That money, like the minute that PayPal transfer is done, it's gone.
Like somehow it's going into...
Like it is going into some creator, some other Patreon, but it is being used to support and do things for the show and to support other artists. And it means the world to both of us knowing that we get to do that, having been a part of this economy for so long and being content to receive things like berries and twigs. And the occasional 3-pack of chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah.
Remember also, thank your favorite fic writer and fan art creator.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a moment if you read a fic that you really like, obviously leave a kudos, but also just say thank you.
Yeah, just it doesn't take very long to leave a small bit of love in someone's comments. Or
but
like buy someone a coffee or something.
But it will take a long time. Carola finally reading my fan fiction.
Yes. Wait, you want me to lie to you?
No. I wish you would. I can see the statistics. I know what's going on. Like, it will take a long time. Carola finally reading my fanfic. She's read the Boy Slut Airy one, which out of all the fic, I think that's amazing.
But it was amazing. Many conflicting emotions. But tongue piercing wins. I'm a simple soul. It's yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thank you.
It feels so good to be back. You're just menacingly petting a cat. What the fuck?
Like, look at me, I'm like this evil. Like, yes.
Just menacingly petting this geriatric cat. And I say geriatric love. Sansa is approximately as old as the hills.
He is older, like in human years, he's older than my grandma.
Yeah.
He's approaching his 90s in human years.
Like, that is not said with hatred. That is genuinely said of this cat, I think, was forged at the same time as the sun during, like, the Big Bang.
Yeah. He's definitely feeling older these days, so...
No, he gets lots of love.
Yeah, he gets lots of love.
I should send him a sweater from America.
I feel like that would be...
a disaster.
I mean, it's a nice gesture. I don't think he'd wear it. I feel like it would be a struggle. I don't want to put either of us through that.
That's fair. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you in our live at the end of the month.
Yes.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.